Garden Tour Saturday. Today I'm introducing you to my ugly garden. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I know my garden is not looking its best, and that is the reason I have not been doing many garden tours, because I'm struggling to see how it can be something I would want to show the world. But I think that's the reality in a lot of summer gardens. They are not always beautiful. Here is an overview of the area that I coined my cottage garden earlier in the season. Definitely not looking its best, but let's see what we can find in this sea of plants and foliage that still has a little beauty left in it. I'm going to start with what is my one and only favorite thing in this sea of plants right here in its current form, and that is my oregano. This oregano, I never planted it. It's self-seeded, I want to say maybe 3 to 4 years ago in my garden from who knows where, and it's literally in many locations. I never planted it here, I never planted it in any of its locations. And I have to say, it really is beautiful. Last season, I used these flowers in some very ethereal looking bouquets, very airy, light, dainty, pastel, and they were gorgeous. And it really is the star of the show amongst all this ugliness. It is actually a little bit of beauty. And the color is definitely one of my favorite colors. Lavender purple. We're going to ignore this structure right here and look at these gorgeous orange flowers. They're already fading. I think this is either Echinacea or Black-Eyed Susan, probably Black-Eyed Susan. Last season I did plant some of these in milk jugs, and this may have been the only one that survived when it got transplanted. But I do love the orange color. It is doing pretty well overall, but it's almost done its blooming season already. Have these all over my garden. Not sure if they're considered weeds. Some people do consider them weeds, some people don't. I don't think they're carrots. And I embrace them because I think they're actually pretty cool. And I think this little section of my cottage garden, despite the ugliness, has a bit of an angelic tone to it. But with the angel here, these wispy white flowers, and these purple ethereal looking oregano flowers, I think it's got a little bit of an angelic tone, and I'm definitely digging that. My dusty millers have seen better days. They are lacking both water and care. I really need to come in here and give these guys some pruning. Just hasn't happened yet. My poppies are well past their prime. Probably ready to sprinkle the seeds pretty soon. That's what I was waiting for. These are my oriental poppies that I did my how to divide poppies video on. I will link that in the description. One of the other things that is actually a little bit beautiful, not in its prime, but still has a little bit of beauty left, are these snapdragons. I love the pure white color. The interesting thing is I didn't plant these this year. I planted these last season, and they were a color that I want to call sunset. A mixture of pink and orange and almost a little bit of red, all thrown into one. And when they came back in pure white form. Pretty interesting how snapdragons do that. And much more lush than last year, but they're going to seed soon. And I'm going to let them because I want them to come back again next season. My hostas are the most sad they have ever been. They are usually lush and gorgeous, not this season. Coming down to the edge of my little cottage garden, some foxgloves are finished, and we have just one lily that is almost past its prime with another bud coming. I cannot remember the name. These might be stargazer lilies, but they are pretty. A little washed out from the sun. But still, I'm still delighting in the beauty of these lilies. Coming into the side border garden here, there are some more lilies that are about to bloom. These are white, and I do not remember the name. They come back every season, and I don't think I've ever showed them on video before. And coming this way, we have some of my daylilies. When I moved to this house, I couldn't really afford anything. Definitely nothing for the garden. It was what you would call house poor. And these were given to me for free from someone on a Facebook marketplace. Someone on Facebook gave me these in a local garden group for free. I came and dug them out. And I actually got a ton of free plants for my garden on Facebook in the first year living here. And I'm so grateful for all of that I frequently give away free plants, seeds, trees, whatever I have from my garden, pots. I try to give them away for free because I received so much generosity. When I really wanted to improve my garden but couldn't afford it, I received a lot of generosity from strangers in my community, and I like to give back whenever I'm able to. This is what the garden looks like from a distance. There is a lot of green, but there's also a lot of brown. Here's my snow pavement rose. It fades so fast. It is still getting new blooms, but the blooms in the heat really do not last long, but they are beautiful. And there is still a lot of nice greenery on it. There's my Desert King fig tree with no figs on it. My knockout roses currently have no flowers. They're just trying to hold their own in the heat. Here's a little look at the slope, which is covered in rocks. It used to have a very invasive shrub called cotton Easter. Last year it was eradicated, and this is what it looks like now. Just rocks with lots of ground covers, which are so tiny you can't see them. Boxwoods. The beautiful purpley black foliage is a 9-bark. Entering the rock garden, we have some more of my very ethereal looking oregano. When this first seeded itself in the middle of my gravel where there's landscape fabric underneath, I tried my hardest to get rid of it, couldn't get rid of it, and now I just let it. And now I embrace it because it planted itself and it is gorgeous. I don't have a lot of flowers right now, so I'm so happy to have it. Beside the oregano, we have a few more daylilies that are still looking pretty good. Now we are entering more of the dead zone. There certainly is life here, but there is also a lot of dead. This is my blue flax plant, which is long past its prime. I usually do cut it quite low to the ground, and it does bounce back and flower again. It basically perennialized itself in this garden. And we have just remnants of larkspur still blooming, but not very many flowers left, mixed with bachelor's button, all these little seed pods. That is what is going on here. There are a ton of them. And this is a little tiny unimus. This is a unimus plant that was a rescue from my parents' garden, just holding its own here in a sea of dead. My Spiriva bushes have a ton of brown seed pods on them, and just a little bit of pink left on the plants. The only color in this garden, for the most part, ooh, there's a little moth or butterfly fluttering around. The majority of the flowers in this area are my California poppies. I have a love-hate relationship with these flowers, but the bees love them still, despite them looking half dead and half alive, so I do not have the heart to pull them out. It's about 9 o'clock in the evening right now, so they are not open, but there is still some life left in them. my autumn joy sedums. I have a bunch of these that were planted from cuttings in here, and they're actually the stars of the show right now. They're by no means blooming, but they're looking pretty healthy and lush, so that is really nice, despite so much in this area looking dead. Here is another dead looking flower. I do not know the name of this flower. It's starting to bloom again though. It was a surprise this year and I was very happy to have it. Two of my rose bushes. This one is one of the few that still has flowers. And I'm not 100% certain on the identity of this rose. I thought this was my ground cover rose, but looking at the height, that does not look like a ground cover rose. So I suspect this is one I planted the year before I started YouTube, and I do believe it was mislabeled. So I do not know the true identity of this rose, but it is beautiful. This is the best year it ever produced flowers. Earlier in the season, it had quite a few, and this is what's left. Lots of dead coming this way. I did just do a big clean out in this garden. Took out a ton of dead material. Even though you still see a lot, there was even more. These are all my love in a mist flowers that are gone to seed. Let's take a seed pod and distribute it. I will do that around the garden in hopes that next year there are even more. Coming this way, this is one of my white Mayland roses. I definitely need to do some cleanup and deadheading. Still relatively healthy, but needs a lot of attention, as do the Sweet Williams. And coming this way, there's a lot of dead in this section of the garden as well. Found one rose that has a little bit of fresh growth on it. This is my Morden Sunrise Rose. It is suffering in the heat, but it has a couple of fresh blooms. So that is really lovely. A little bit of beauty amongst the dead. Here's some very lush looking hens and chicks. There's an overview of my rock garden right now. You see virtually no flowers here, and that's okay. That is the summer look. I would love to make this look more florally in the summer, but I haven't quite figured out the right formula. This area here is looking the best out of the entire garden. This is my narrow side yard. I have one rose here that is a late bloomer, and I'm so grateful to have it. It is looking absolutely stunning. This is a ground cover rose, I know for certain. It has pinkish red blooms, and it is just gorgeous. Surrounding it, these are creeping fox plants. And then the stars of the show here are my pumpkin plants. These are the clearance petunias that I got that were still really healthy. They hadn't even bloomed yet, and now they have flowers, which is super exciting. This is one of my shrubs I planted earlier in the season when I gave this bed a makeover. This is a rhodo. Another one of my petunia plants in full bloom. This is a purist bush that I planted during my makeover. And this here is another one of my pumpkin plants. Two actually, gone completely bonkers. This is in my secret pumpkin farm in the front garden that the neighbors are not supposed to know about. There are little petunia plants in here. They feel very Canadian. A little bit of alyssum has seeded itself. A sedum that was left from the makeover from previous, I let it grow. A unimus bush in the midst of that. And another good sized pumpkin plant. And we can take a minute to appreciate these fairy gardens. Once again, these were made much earlier in the season. My beach-themed fairy gardens. And a little sneak peek at a project I've been working on, these gnomes. I literally just popped into this area of the garden I call my secret garden. I have only filmed a couple times in here, and I got stung by a wasp right in the middle of my head, and it is really hurting me. I'm going to end the video now. Thank you so much for watching my ugly garden tour. I definitely need to do something about the fact that I got stung. I can feel it swelling up already. Super painful, and this is really bad news. I'm not allergic, but not feeling very good. So thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Here is one more beautiful plant in my garden. This here is one of my rock rose shrubs. Rock roses come in both ground cover form as well as shrub form, and this one is in full bloom, just very happy in the sunshine. These plants are extremely drought tolerant and heat tolerant. They love the sun, poor soil, awesome plants. And I have a pink one here which hardly has any blooms. It's really interesting. When I got this plant, it had bright pink flowers on it a few years ago, and I have since learned that in the high temperatures the flowers are pale pink, and in cooler temperatures that's when the color really comes out, and they are much more vibrant in cool temperatures.